Do some writers tend to be better at those driven emotions than others? Or do you find yourself having to put yourself in a mental state? You've done it so much, you kind of know the job, but do you like, is there certain writers that they may be better for an empathy or something, or does a writer understand it's a reverse engineer machine mechanism, not so much emotionally attached? Or maybe that was what you had in the beginning, right? Maybe you had those emotions to the book, but maybe you don't now.
It depends on the subject matter, right? So it's like, writing a book about sales is probably not going to make you cry. You shouldn't anyway.
Depends which deal you lost.
Yeah, but like, it really it's all subject matter driven. It's author driven because there's a reader for every author and there's an author for every reader.
The Move Entrepreneur Evolved podcast. Get on it.
And we're back for another episode of the Moved Entrepreneur Evolved podcast. And I'm super excited about today's episode with Gabi Garrete. She's a journalist who's published over 700 times, 2 personal time author. Most people don't actually write their own books, but also has published 54 books for other people. And this one I think is pretty awesome. Helped 128 people find their voice. What is up, Gabi?
What's up? I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited that you're here too. We met because we had a mutual friend. With that, I'm going to start right here. What was the first book you wrote, or was it journalism first?
Journalism first. It was journalism first. So the first article I wrote, great question. It was actually in college. I wrote an article for Tiny Buddha in 2016, I think was my first published article. And it was about how we can spend time alone and not need validation for peace.
And what was that? This is actually probably interesting, is because as we kind of were talking a little bit earlier in the back room, what happens to you as a writer when you take on these articles or an article that you put in, for example, the one that you had just talked about, as a writer, what happens to you as a writer?
When I'm writing in my own voice, typically what happens is like a deep self-discovery. So it's more like, I'm more like a detective, like understanding the human experience and then scribing it so that people don't have to go through what I went through. Or if they are going through it, they have a guide. I really see myself as like, I know I'm a human, but like, I don't really feel like I'm from this planet. So like, I feel like I see things differently and I describe them in a way that helps people.
Are you Elon Garrett or Gabby Musk?
No, I just truly feel like since I've been here, like since I was born, like I just felt like there's journals of me being like 6 and I'm like, humans seem to chew gum, seem to feel this way. Like I've always just been studying it.
That's really interesting. So it's like, it's kind of a really interesting topic because it talks about kind of superpowers, right?
Yeah.
And one of the superpowers that, mine is not really writing, but if I were to have somebody give me the breakdowns of what I need to speak on, I can actually anchor those in my head, get in front of a set of people, and I can roll through those and kind of get through it. And everybody's like, wow, how'd you do it? I'm like, I anchor them. So is it kind of like that for you? Like, do you have these anchors in your brain that connect? And then once they connect, they start to create a story? Is that kind of a process that you go through?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people have unique processes for writing and unique processes for speaking, right? Because I think it's all in art. Like, it's just the way that you create your art. When I'm writing an article, I don't write it till I can see it. So like, I'll see it completed. And then from that point, I just fluidity throw it. Like, I don't really always know what points I'm going to hit. I just know it's time to write once I can see it.
And so like, I think a lot of people look at book writing as a big fear. Yeah. Would you say that it's like up there with public speaking? Do those kind of connect?
I don't think people are afraid to write a book. I think people are afraid to write. I think people are afraid to, I think the thing that happens, people are afraid to write, period. Just like people are afraid to public speak, but they're afraid to put something permanent. They're afraid of the permanency of a book.
Oh, because ultimately books are the only thing that kind of is a copy that stays with us. Your voice stays and it continues. So you think that the pressure of longevity is like, this is who I am, and we attach ourselves. You think that, so that's kind of what people are afraid of.
I think they're afraid of fucking up and not being able to drive to everyone's house and pick it up and take it home. Like they're afraid that, like, so imposter syndrome is a huge obstacle to becoming an author, because an author is an expert. An article writer is an expert light. A book writer, like, okay, on the scale of expertness, it would be like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, podcasting and YouTube are probably equal. And then like above that would be an article, and above that would be a book, and above level with a book would be a speaker. I've never said that before, but I truly believe that, like, it doesn't take a lot of expertise to post on Instagram, because someone calls you out, you just delete it. And furthermore, you could delete your entire profile. And an article can be taken down, but a book and a speak, you know what I'm saying? Like it makes people feel like, do I really know enough? And like,
that's a really good point.
Yeah. So like, it's great and not so great when you're a ghostwriter, because like some people come to me like ready to go, and some people come to me and that scares the fuck out of them, and I never hear from them again.
Oh, that's true.
Like,
yeah.
They know, like, when people work with me, their dreams come true. Like if you pay someone, it's going to happen. So like arbitrarily, if you had a fear of painting your house and you hired a painter, like you might have them come into your home, but like then you're like, now I'm really gonna have to paint the house. Oh my gosh.
So when we look at this was kind of, I liked the conversation of what fear is attached to actual like books, right? It sounds like it's like a lot of people have this fear of what they're doing. Would you say that that's not true? Because there's millions of books that only unless you kind of, especially in today's world, only if you really kind of market it, are they going to find it? Do you think there's a little bit of that?
Yeah, and some people don't market it because of the fear. So like, there's so much unraveling you could do about success in general, but like, you know, some people don't have a lot of Instagram followers, or don't have a lot of views, or don't have whatever, because they don't actually want to be seen. So the same would apply for a book. If you don't actually believe what you wrote was worthy or magnificent, or you think it has typos, or all of those fears will creep up and like desecrate your potential for success.
Did you go, and I think this is super important, because it's like, we all go through certain stages, even though you went through it. What was your feeling when you were like, okay, was it, I'm going to write your own book first? Or did you get somebody to write a book and then you were just like, let me give this a shot? Where was that position in your life? And from what I just heard, that was probably 5 years ago, maybe even. Okay.
The first book I wrote was for a man named Sydney, who is still in real estate, a real estate investor. And basically I would meet with him. We would do like a one-to-one interview, and then I would write. So he kind of taught me the process as he knew it, because he's had 2 ghostwriters prior to me. And then I wrote my own book called Kicked Out of Therapy.
Oh, Kicked Out of Therapy.
That was my first book. So I wrote that 6 months after finishing Sydney's book. And then I was talking with one of my clients, Sharon, and he was like, he paid me a retainer, and he just always gave me random shit to do within the retainer. So he was like, hey, for the next 4 months, write 2 chapters, you know, with the money I pay you. And I was like, okay, cool. So I just took all of his content that he'd already created and wrote his book. And then I didn't write books for a while. Like I wrote Sharon's, I wrote Sydney's. I didn't do anything else with them. And then I was working for a man who had like a really big coaching company, and he's like had a ghostwriting arm of it that wasn't doing anything. And then we moved from like a modest house to like a really nice house in a country club. And so I was like, can you do more with that publishing thing? And can I do it? And he was like, sure. So I started making a third of what I charge now, but in bulk. So like I went from at that point, I think I had doubled my income in like 15 days. And then I had 12 times it in 6 months doing this.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then that's how you kind of found like, wait a minute here. Did you have like an aha moment and you went, wait a minute, there's a lot of jacked up people who want to get a book out, right? And it was probably like, wait a minute, this might be where I position myself. Is that kind of how that took play?
I just have always pivoted. Like if like in the past, like, so from the business, my main objective from the business from the beginning was to make money. It's not that anymore. I have like a new objective, but I pretty much just went where the money went. And that's fine. I think your first business is money, where the money goes. And then now my ultimate objective is for me to be the author. And so whatever I can do to fund that so that I have enough creative space to write the book is the objective. So whereas I will limit my expenses to get to have a couple really easy contracts, which I don't think I have to do. I mean, I could have 3 easy contracts that pay me more and still live my regular lifestyle. But I would do that in order to be able to write and grow my brands. Like, to answer your question, I think whatever the main objective is, the rest falls in. And at that point, the main objective was to make a fuck ton of money. So this thing was perfect.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And then all you got to do is write the book on how to make a buttload of money.
Yep, exactly. So and then once I bought everything I'd ever really wanted, then it was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And then it was dismantling that, which was difficult because when you have 54 people who have your personal cell phone number and then you don't want to do it anymore, but they still do. I mean, it's a breakup, right? That's what a breakup is.
Yeah, I sound brokenhearted right now.
And it wasn't easy. I mean, it's been a year since I did that. And I chose to pay back a third of the contract. And so I'm still paying that back because it was more valuable based on values to me to not have that money, to not have these people in my life.
Yeah, I think that just in business in general, and I think people that are on this podcast, it's about business as well. And I think that kind of what you're saying is you didn't want that hanging over your head.
It was awful. I mean, you a bit off more than I could chew. And then I didn't understand the business philosophy. So I paid people to do the work, but then I never had a meeting with people to say it wasn't going to be me doing the work. And so there was just a misaligned expectation after misaligned expectation. And then I overpaid people to do the work. So I wasn't making any money off of it. So I was resentful. So I was burnt out. So, I mean, I could definitely teach people how not to do that. My situation was super unique, but not unique to entrepreneurs who are scaling. And I scaled really fucking well. I had no clue I knew how to scale like that. I scaled like a boss, but then I was like, ew, I don't want any of this.
Yeah, because I would think unlike a product, if I were to have a ring or whatever the heck I had, right? Whatever. If I have that, you can unemotionally be like, it's just a product. I'm probably gonna leave it in the garage for 6 weeks anyways. They're gonna forget about it. But you have an emotional attachment if you actually have to write. So actually writing it, you're also attached to going, oh man, this is not right. So you're literally you're in it with the product. Right.
So you can't scale yourself, right? So I didn't have a method. I didn't have a service driven. It wasn't just marketing that I was scaling. It was me as a ghostwriter. So I just imagined the multiverse, me as 54 me's, and it's impossible to scale yourself. You can't scale your genius. You can't outsource your genius. That would be my key takeaway.
Yeah, because you have charismatic personality. You got to go find that personality. Then you got to have the skill set, and they have it. And I think that's probably across the board of business as well, right? Mm-hmm. When people bottleneck in that scenario. So go ahead. No, go ahead.
If I started a ghostwriting business without my name on it, then yes. But because it was me as a service provider, no.
Because the transaction, we say this nicely, is a corporate transaction. And basically...
Right. If it was if no one ever knew I was even attached to it.
Yeah, because then it would be we took on 10 books, 20% are returns.
Yeah.
And then you work through lead generation. And then as you flow through that, you're like, hey, we book 10 books a quarter and we can produce 8 of them. We already know that 2, it's almost like a hedge fund, right? You basically we know that 2 are going to fail. They're going to be pissed off, but hey, move on. We're going to collect the money and move through. And there's a part of that we say pissed off, but that's business, right? There's a part of business that has that mundane sense to it.
Totally.
Did you find yourself being drawn to certain personalities? I know that you and I had talked, and then one of the things that you had talked about, because we were talking about doing a book, for our Move 30 and things like that. And one thing I thought was kind of in our conversation is you're like, I meet with people and you're like, I don't know if you even said to me, you're like, I don't even know if I was planning on telling you no. And I was like, you ain't going to tell me no. I'm just kidding.
It has to be something I want to know about. in that case, then yes, I will write your book. But if I don't care about because you're essentially teaching me and then I'm scribing it for other people. And so if I don't care to learn, then I don't want to take it.
When you look back, what was one of the best projects that you were like, I could write 3 of these books? Like, which ones may take you into series? Like, is that a word?
Yeah.
Series?
Series?
I don't think it's a word.
Executives who have done crazy cool things, I really enjoy because I love business. So I love the story of it. There was a guy who I wrote a book for who went into organizations and scaled sales teams. And surprisingly, that one was very interesting. I have one client who I just adore, and like his thought processes are genius. And I really love working with him because you couldn't pay to get this guy to be your mentor, but he's mine, you know what I mean? And like, he pays me, so it's perfect. But like, to me, it's like, like some of the best articles I wrote were like when I interviewed the founders of APL or when I interviewed billion-dollar earners. And it's like, I got to spend 30 minutes with this person. You couldn't pay for it. So it's like my job to absorb the knowledge and ask questions not only I want to know, but the readers would want to know, and then relay the information.
And as I kind of go through this, there's a little of that process through doing a podcast. It's like I tend to get people in that scenario, and I'm like, what are some topics would be super cool, and then how can I attach it to listeners that kind of play through it? That's got to take you down some like crazy rabbit holes, because you're like, do you find yourself overwriting, or how do you actually look at a book and you go, I know we were talking, it was like 7 or 11 chapters or something. You were like, this is 7 or 11. You already knew. You were like, look, this is an 11 chapter book. This is whatever it was. So that's just your instinct through experience, right?
Yeah.
But how did you find yourself? I guess the word would be like a governor, right? Because you seem like got like a really good heart. So it's like, you probably could just keep writing. Like you could just keep going. Like, where does a governor in a book say, look, that's enough?
Good question. I think it's an intuitive ability to relay the information without over and relaying the information. Like, have you ever read a book where they just keep saying the same thing?
I just read a book. And shoot, what's his name? Green. 48 Laws of Power. 50th law.
Yeah.
Ed Green, Echo Green, right? Yeah. I think it's Echo Green. But I just finished his 50th law, and that's about 50 Cent and his story combined with like people that go through fear. And he talks about 50 Cent, and I'm going through his book. It's like 198 pages, and I'm literally like, he's like, he got shot, and then like I'm in like 4 more chapters, and then it's like, he was in the car and then he got shot. And I'm like, we just did that.
Right.
And it was almost like he kept rolling through. I'm assuming there's a little bit of reason behind that, so that it basically kind of really embeds what happens, I would assume. But is there a reason for that, or is it just trying to put filler?
I think it's poor writing most of the time. If it's autobiographical like that and they've already said it, but if it's methodological, like where you're trying to teach someone something and you keep repeating, like there's intentionality and then there's carelessness, right? So like, if the core principle, so basically when I go to write a book, the core principle of the book is to teach you about 50 Cent's life, then I would tell the story in chronological order and then tie principles to it. So if I was to revisit an event, I would say, like when I told you about blah, 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 or you start to lose trust. So it's just like being drunk with someone and they're like, you're like, are you fucking heard that story? I don't want to hear it again.
I fucking felt like that. And it was a weird feeling, because I was reading the chapters in different spots. So like I was out here in my backyard and I was like reading through it, and like, it was like, wait a minute. But the other part I read like on my couch, and then another time it showed up, I was like reading it while I was going to bed, and I was like, this is totally hitting me different. And I think like the word of like feeling drunk is exactly that. I was just like, am I crazy here, or did we not just go through this and all you did is say that he shot 9 shots through his body, but last time you just said he just got shot? So I felt that's a really interesting way to think about that.
hit with a few shells. Now he walks with a limp.
Yeah.
In the hood, when they say, 50 you hot.
Anyway, 50 hot. Oh, that guy, right? His story is actually pretty crazy. He talks in the book, just ironically through the whole thing though, is he says he was one of the most calm guys he's ever met. And you're like, that's crazy. It's just like, you wouldn't think it'd be 50.
Yeah, you would not think that. It's interesting. I mean, like, to know, like, I think this might be a question people are probably wondering about. Like, well, how do I know if I have a book? Like, what if I'm just going to keep repeating myself? And like, the answer is everybody has a story. It's just knowing when to tell it. So like an autobiographical memoir before 40, no. Unless you're whatever, Mark Zuckerberg, then sure. But unless you've done something like extraordinary, if you've never been on TV, don't write a memoir. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you've never been interviewed on MSNBC or CNBC, or no offense, no one cares about your memoir, and you might have but you can write a self-help memoir with your own experiences, which are my favorite types of books. So you write the self-help book and you use your own life as examples. But if you only talk about your own life without prefacing it, you look like just like being drunk at a party and only talking about yourself. Like, you want to say
it becomes more ego driven than it is application or so.
You want it to be applicable and relatable. And so like my first book is self-help memoir. So Kate's Out of Therapy says, like, I'm going to use stories from my own life to drive home these principles. I didn't have time to call you and get yours. And like, it's very comedic, but I feel like I did a good job with it. Now, did the book sell a ton? No, I was 26 years old and I wrote a self-help memoir. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, no, it didn't sell a lot. The meat of the book is still really good. But like, you either can write about your business principles, like I was telling you, like if you have IP, if you come up with something new, yes. If you, like, I could write a book on how to write a book.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, I could write a book on you can do whatever you want, but like, if you're going to get a real publisher, like if you want to go big and do the whole thing, then you need a concept and you want to be the living embodiment of the concept.
And most of the time you have been on stage, you would have shared that story. You would have kind of had an audience that also can attach that they'd want the book to play through. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you a major note taker?
Yeah. I am. Naturally, I'm a scribe, but for example, with my new book, I am becoming the living embodiment of it, and I'm talking about it all the time. So I'm talking about it, not the book itself, but the concept. So I'm talking about the concept continuously. You don't necessarily need to tell people you're writing a book. You know what I mean? But you can talk about the concept. And then I'm going to write articles about the concept so that a publisher is attracted by the concept and reaches out to me.
So basically you're creating the buzz and the energy, mm-hmm. and you're basically getting out there and being an evangelist of your story. And then that starts to make sense because you kind of got, in a way, maybe this is right, but it's almost like the trailer before the movie.
Yeah.
And if you don't release these little trailers and then they read the book and they're like, oh, you already talked about that, but there's a little detail that now I like the book better. Is that maybe the flow?
Yeah, it's really like a publisher is looking for a good marketer with a good story, with a good concept that will sell books. So self-publishing is different. Self-publishing is you thinking you have something great to say and you giving yourself permission to sell it. Typically what will happen is the book will come, then the speaking career will come. I don't usually see it reversed, but it can. Because you'll use the book as a platform to become the speaker.
Got it. Because and not only that, your book tour is actually a lot more fluid because you then are the embodiment of what that is. Is that why presidents usually wait until like their late 60s to do their memoirs? Because they're like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it just seems like we hear that when it's more or less like in their 60s, like, okay, now I gotta write my memoir, right? Is that the reason? Because they can't write it while the experience is happening. Correct.
Like, you could pay for dinner in the middle of a meal, but why would you? You might want something else.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Dolly Parton just wrote her memoir, right? But Amy, whatever the comedian was. Yeah, she wrote Girl with a Lower Dragon Back Tattoo when she was like 32.
Yeah, you girls liked that book. I had a girlfriend. Oh, she realized, she was like, that's the funniest book. And she's like, you should read it. I was like, probably not going to read it, but you can give me the cliff notes.
Yeah. And Tina Fey wrote her book when she was like 39, 40, but she was on TV a lot. You know, people wanted to know, like, hey, that's what I was saying. The exception to the rule is if you're on TV.
Would the exception of the rule also be by early experiences in the same subject? So for example, if like your subject is, I'm going to throw this, like a dancer or a boxer, and you've boxed since you were 8. And then now you're going to be like, I'm now I'm 28. I've been in 100 fights, or I've danced this many times. It has, I think what I'm kind of getting from you, and I think other people get this too, is like, you've got to have enough ruts through the story to actually make it exciting, because the younger you are, the more, I say, ego, you're not really at a place to saying, man, that was my fault. Like, you aren't really at a place to kind of pull, what would the word, not ego, but maybe it is, but you're not willing to share your vulnerability in truth.
Yeah. You haven't had time to digest it, so you don't know what it all means.
I talked to somebody, it was probably a year ago, and they were talking about like a book and things. And the one thing that he said, and I think it was scary, but it kind of makes sense, is like, when you start to write your book, don't show up halfway. Like, if you come and tell the story, you gotta let it all out. You've got to let the whole thing out. And I thought that was pretty intimidating, because you're like, I don't know if I want to tell that. I don't know if I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think it was basically saying, be prepared to be vulnerable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just like back to the party example, like if someone said, hey, Gabby, how was your trip to Mexico? Like, you wouldn't be like, like, you would be like, it was great. But you don't have to say like, one morning I got in a fight with my boyfriend. That's not the story. Like, the story is like, we went to fly and we went to swim with dolphins and we had this beautiful dinner. You can leave out the bullshit. You're not lying. You're just choosing not to focus on the negative.
Oh, that's true. Do some writers, empathy, you've got optimism, do some writers tend to be better at those driven emotions than others? Or do you find yourself having to put yourself in a mental state? You've done it so much, you kind of know the job, but do you like, is there certain writers that they may be better for an empathy or something, or does a writer understand it's a reverse engineer machine mechanism, not so much emotionally attached? Or maybe that was what you had in the beginning, right? Maybe you had those emotions to the book, but maybe you don't now.
It depends on the subject matter, right? So it's like, writing a book about sales is probably not going to make you cry. You shouldn't anyway.
Depends which deal you lost.
Yeah, but like, it really it's all subject matter driven. It's author driven, because there's a reader for every author and there's an author for every reader.
Yeah. What are some things that people should look at in searching out? And now, obviously, this is a plug, but if you were just to say somebody in that conversation, we had the conversation, it's like, hey, you're not right for me. What are some things of anchors or fundamentals that Johnny, Mike, Sally, whatever, they get to that, they're like, okay, I'm ready to go. What should be those fundamentals? Because, even if we had a discussion and we were talking and we totally vibed, for days, we were just talking and vibing. Yeah. And that probably is important. But I also then get off the phone with you, and then next thing you know, I'm in a meeting or something, and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking I may look at doing this, and this person's super cool. And the immediate thing is, well, what is it going to cost? Da, 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 da. And then the next thing is, well, we can get the book done a lot less expensive. We can print it out and go from there. There's this like conversations with you felt like life, and then I felt like I was transactional in the other conversations.
Yeah, right. Totally. I mean, it's kind of like getting a house that's built by a builder who builds hundreds of thousands of houses. That's what it's like going to a marketing or like a scaled out company. And then when you go to a solo expert and you go to like a boutique firm, it's like, now you're going to get an artisan built house. Like, you're going to actually know who's working with you. And so like, I'm not the most expensive person in the game at all, but I am, to me, like the reason why I would say like you'd be insane not to hire me if it was right is because like I'm a good writer. And like if your biggest fear is writing the book, then having an award-winning journalist write your book should eliminate the fear. So like, you know, like average ghostwritten book is 45,000 to 100,000. And like I typically stick 15 to 21 because to me, like that's enough for me to show up and do a good job. Now, later in life, will I change the price? Maybe, or maybe I won't do it anymore. But like, it's just, you know, pricing in general for business is whatever you can get behind and whatever you're going to show up and do the work. Because if I ask you for $45,000, I could still show up. I'd be fine. I'm used to making a good amount of money, but like your expectation is now so high that it's like, that's like, now you're going to freak yourself out and you're going to freak me out. Whereas we're used to spending 15, 20K, like we really are. So like, you know, so I just stay in that price range. Not because, but I guess I just don't want people to show up like, I've just spent my, you know, whole first year salary on this person. Like, no.
And then you feel that tension, and then
I don't want to show up for that. No, that's why I always
tell you were cringing. Like I could just see it in your body. You're just like, I don't want.
I don't want to. But then again, if like I live in a pretty affluent area, if one of the people over here was like, will you write my book? How much is it? I would probably be like, they're 45,000. And they'd be like, okay. And then I wouldn't feel weird at all. And that's my own shit.
Yeah. But you also find your flow, and then you find also the people you serve, and then, you know, all of those things combine, you know, your personality, you know, I actually care, you have all those things. And then it also, I would think it also, there's a trust factor that comes in this, which is probably huge. And so you find yourself kind of going, if I can decrease that trust pressure, and then they're like, cool, this is awesome. And then it's not a money thing, it's a deliverable thing.
Exactly. And it's like, I'd rather write 3 books for 3 people at 15 than 1 at 45, because then that person's going to be like up my ass.
How many, that's interesting. How many people come back? You know, I'm not going to spill the beans for Mikey Lucas, but how many people come back to write a second book? Because I would think that your LTV would actually be much longer, because you could probably say, you know, hey, this is the price. When we start getting our second, third book, we can package it or whatever that is. So you're not out of the money because your relationships are there. And I would assume that you already know the subject, and you're like, I already know how they talk. I could spit that out in half the time compared to the other one, because now that's the interview. Did I do well with that?
Yes. So my clients don't leave. So high level clients don't leave. You know what I mean? So like, that's not an absolute statement. Yes, people leave, but like I have a client who came to me for his first book, and then after that we did a PR spin, and then after that we wrote a second book, and then after that I write 2 articles for him every month. So the lifetime value of this customer is like wild. And it's so easy. He's like my favorite customer because he trusts me. He always pays his invoice on time. He's quick to look at the work. I can't tell you how much I hate working with people who hire me and then I send them things and it goes into a black hole. So during the sales process, like if you don't answer me, like, and you always answer me, thank you. But if you don't answer me, like to me, I'm like, well, now I can't work with you because like this is gonna take forever. Like there was a man that was referred to me and I was really excited. And he's like, I'll call you back tonight. And then he was like, stalk me if I don't answer you. So I didn't feel like stalking him, but you know, I follow up like a boss. So then I'm like, followed up and I'm like, I wrote him an email this morning and I was like, I'm so sorry, like, good luck. Because I can't hold space for you.
I was like, Gabi's a ninja. We had talked on the phone, and then I was like, all right, you know, my good vibes were all there, you know, a mutual friend, and I'm like, this is all good vibes. And then you sent me an email, and I'm like, okay. And the next thing, like, all up in my boxer, I'm like, what? You hit me in every angle possible. I was like, how can I get rid of Gabi? I can't. She's got every piece to my life. So the next thing I was disappointed, I'll be honest, because the next day showed up and I was like, she's probably going to be knocking on my door, but I opened the door and you weren't there. But I'm saying, but it was classy, you know what I mean? And you keep it fun, keep it there. But I could see that probably happens because of fear
It does. That's why I have a follow-up process like that, because I know it's intimidating. I want people to know that they have somebody in it with them. And at the same time, like it's not even usually like, sometimes I don't even need the contract. It's more, to me, I hate the unclosed loop. Like, I hate it when people don't give me an answer. It's so disrespectful to me. And I try my best never to do that to someone else. Like, because it's like, no one asks you to hold space. It's like, you're welcome to meet with anyone you want. But if that person's given you the gift of their time, then you owe them the response to say yes, no. So I could control the process better. I just forget that I forget this. And then I'm like, damn, I wish I would have controlled it better. Like, because I could say at the end of the call, like, I only ghostwrite 2 books a year. If you want this, I need to know in 24 hours. If not, I'll never talk to you again, and I'll burn your house down. Talk to you later. Just kidding. But like, I don't control it.
Why do I believe some of this is true?
But like, I really don't control it the way. But here's the thing: when I don't try to control it, it works out great. Like, I talked to a startup this morning, and they were like, "You should." Like, basically this startup is called hops.io, and like, they match experts. So like, you could get on Hops for 3 hours and make $300 if you wanted to, just because, and you could just help people. So like, I'm like, well, maybe I would do that. Like, you know, it's not really like my normal hourly rate, but to be able to help companies or people who are struggling with my expertise, like maybe. So I met
a better glass of wine for the night.
Yeah, just chilling. I mean, $300, I could just be like it's just shopping money. So then
I need some gas money. Get on for an hour.
But if you work for them for 3 hours a day, you would make like $6,000 a month. So I was like, that's pretty easy. Anyway, I met with them, and they were like, yeah, would you rather just like be on our marketing team? And I was like, all right. But like, see, I didn't force it. I didn't push it. When I don't do that, things are so much smoother. But when it's just like dating, right? I mean, like, when I remember my own rules, things are better. But I get so excited, and I'm like, I feel like we're already working together.
It is, because it's like, that's the saying, like, somebody comes in your life, and then you're just like, where the hell did you come from? Like, and then next thing you know, it reminds me of my girlfriend. Next thing you know, it's 4 years, and I'm like, what the heck happened here? It's just right? Yeah, you're just like, whoa, what just happened? But you're not like trying to. Yeah, that probably is a philosophy of anything, and also it's a philosophy of good contracts. Like, and that's, but also you've fair play, you've established that confidence to be in that position.
Yeah. So like, yes, all my business is typically referral. And so like, it's just that I don't feel like it in the moment to say like, this is how it goes, because the person's in a vulnerable state. It's like a science, right? But it doesn't have to be a science, because when it's really aligned, the person will call you, they'll pay you, and they'll start working with you.
Well, the science is happening. It's happening for you.
Yeah.
Like
It's someone told me once, like, their nervous system has to get used to you. And so like, if I really wanted to like manipulate the process, I could show up less Gabi-like, and I could not overwhelm their nervous system.
Yeah, don't do that.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, what's that old saying? You be you. You
but
be you.
I could read a script and be like, hello, you have reached me, the ghostwriter. And then I'm not going to do that though, because like, I just think it's fun. Like, I like meeting people. I like hearing their stories. I love it when it works out and people want to work with me. But if they don't, like, I have a course, and the course is amazing. I mean, it'll literally teach you everything you need to know. And not everybody has $15,000 to $21,000. So totally go buy the course, do it yourself. And it's like, literally, even if you take the course, like, you get to have a call with me. Like, I'm here to get books out. I'm here to get stories out.
What's your, let's say it's 5 years from now. Where's Gabi? 10 years, what does that look like?
5 years from now, I am living on the water, and and I have a family, and I'm.
Where's that water? It's important.
Oh yes, either the Bay where I live now, or like the beach in South Florida. I'm on the water. We have a family, and I'm writing my second book, and my audience and readers are at 2 million.
Very specific book. Very.
Yes.
2 million in revenue.
No, I have 2 million readers. So I'm probably
2 million readers. Got it.
I'm probably making much more than $2 million. But, and then 10 years, Let's see. I have pivoted from self-help to fiction, and my books are being made into movies. And my kids are like so cool because their mom wrote the new Harry Potter, and everyone's like, I can't believe that's your mom.
Well, what I've heard though is that when you become that writer, the kids actually say, "That's not my mom. My mom just."
No way. They're gonna be like, "That's my mom."
No, they don't. So I was just watching this thing, and I'll solidify this. And this person is respectable, and then you'll say this is great. It's Mike Tyson. I'm a big Mike Tyson fan. And he's in his podcast, and then one guy, he's like, "So what about your kids? What are they thinking? I mean, you're freaking Mike Tyson." He's like, "They think that I work for my wife."
No, I don't. I believe you, but I'm pre-paving.
Hey, maybe you have better kids than he does. How about that? I like that idea. You have better kids.
Mine are going to be obsessed with me.
Well, you should write the book for them. So then as an elementary, like, this is how you treat your mother.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I'm going to make Chris one first, my boyfriend, and then I'll beta test him.
Oh God. Oh, Chris.
Poor Chris.
You're in for one.
Living with me is like living with Oprah. So like, I won't live with that. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. So I think that a lot of book writing is if I were to kind of pull it back to the structure of what people go through and kind of recap and fill a couple of these things, is the intimidation with the right person is null.
Yes. It's just like dating. When you're on a first date, you're naturally going to be nervous, but it's the right match for you. The second and third are going to feel fluid, and then they're going to move in your house and never leave. That's exactly what it's like working with me.
Oh yeah, because you take the book and you put it in your house.
Yeah,
and you never leave.
You just keep working with me.
Yeah.
You have a new.
And then the other one, I think the other one that I was kind of getting from you is that timing is important, and positioning yourself in front of the book is very important as well.
Mm-hmm. You need readers, so you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Because does it work the same? And I know there's distribution, but when you look at, I was just actually watching, they were talking about how to create a movement, and it was about Tesla, it was about Apple, it was about Facebook, all those things. And a movement is actually created by finding one person, and then that one person understands your vision, and that person brings somebody in and brings somebody in. Would you say that the majority of books, I'll give you a great example. This was the other side of this. Maybe I just answered my own stinking question, but I'll go for this anyways. But do you think that is the formula of, like, if the book's good, then your marketing doesn't have to be as crazy? And I'm only bringing up Alex Hermosi in his book, and he has that $100 million offer. And his thing was, I want to write a book so good that just people tell other people about it. Now, to think he didn't market is probably not. I mean, you have a marketing background. You're not going to do that at all. So I don't know if that was
right. I feel very like, okay, so with my new book, it's called Chillsiety. So the marketing it starts with the title. Like, you're going to pick it up because you either think it means chill anxiety, or like I have chilling anxiety, or like I'm chilling with anxiety, or I have anxiety when I relax. So you're going to pick it up and be like, what is this? So marketing starts with the title. It doesn't matter who you are first. The first thing is the content of the book. Second thing is, are you the right match to the book? So like, do you embody the characteristics like we were talking about? So yes, you have to market. Yes, you have to do all those things. But sometimes the book is bigger than you, and that's when it takes off. You just get to be the
vehicle.
You just get to be the lighter of the candle. Like, to be honest, that's the best book. The self-publishing world is what I help people do. And also, that is more of a building ground. The big books, like, that we all know and love, that have just, like, the 4-Hour Work Week made Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss did not make the 4-Hour Work Week.
And I think I heard somebody also say, like, and this is something I think that you're going to back this up, is that when you're writing the book, people mess up thinking they write it for themselves.
No.
And really what they're doing is they're really writing it for someone else to be able to adapt your story and then connect their dots to how they can apply it. Did I do okay there?
The first time you write the book is for you. The second time you write the book is for the reader. If you write the book the first time for the reader, you'll have the judge voice in your head the whole time. So the first time you write it's for you, the second time you write it's for the reader. That's how I roll.
What's expectations on people that start a book? So I think this statement would be like, hey, my expectations of doing this. What's expectations on time? What's expectations on what are some things they should expect when they're getting it that triggers them? This is going to be a good book. Or I guess first one's time. I've got the wrong author.
What do you mean?
Like, do you go through a couple chapters and then people are like, hey man, you're talking, this isn't even me, what?
Oh, like you wrong story for you.
Yeah. Like you're just like the author's writing it and you're like, dude, we're way off. Do people get to a place, and I know the way you structure it's much different than anybody I talk to.
Yeah. No.
Like you allow people to get off the train, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, I haven't ever had someone come to me and they had the wrong topic. I have had people come to me that have nothing to say, and that wasn't me that onboarded them. That was my past partner. Because if you have nothing to say, I wouldn't write your book, because I'm going to end up writing your book. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to have to fill in all your gaps.
And the other thing too, I think was like kind of nerve-wracking, because I'm like, this is something I was thinking about. Like, if I didn't write it, then what I remember, like when they're like, hey, on page number 27, and you start doing this, and I'd be like, okay,
who's gonna do that? People always say rare shit like that. Like, there's so many authors who have done. No one is going to attack.
Yeah, it's so good. People always
who's gonna do that? Who is this person that's gonna have so much free time that they're gonna go T-Mobile on you? But like, who's gonna
I don't know. I'll tell you this much. My yours and yours get fixed all the time. Like
Imagine this: a complete stranger feels so validated that they're going to go to an author and tell them they're wrong. No, when you read a book, the author's immediately on the pedestal. Therefore, you don't feel like you can just attack this pedestal human. You're reading their book. Nobody feels like they could do that. I don't know anyone who feels like they're like, this person is just the worst. I'm going to get on the internet and just, there's trolls, but there's trolls everywhere. I've had nothing but love when I write, because I write with love. there has been probably 3 million eyeballs on my work, and I've never gotten a hate mail.
Oh, really?
Yep, ever.
Well, in your track record of time,
so far,
if you ever get one, it looks like you could go another 5 years.
I'm willing for people not to like me, for more people to see my work. Are you? That's like the journey you have to go on. I am willing for people not to like me, for more people to see my work.
So who's Gabi? What's Gabi's hobbies, as we kind of bring this thing to wrap it all up? What's Gabi's hobbies? What's
I like to read. I literally spend all my time reading and writing. I'm such a dork. I'm an immersive artist. I read, I write, I listen to speaking, I listen to training, and then I help people read, write, and train. I'm an immersive artist. It's really what I do. Like, if you saw me out, like having wine, like the typical conversation is straight up going to be exactly this. Like, I'm a student of life. Like, I don't really change much. Like, it's not like, I mean, the one thing that I do that's not productive is I like to watch The Real Housewives. I'm fun to hang out with, but truly I'm deep as fuck. I'm not really, this is just,
I always, and I think that like it's important to have that skill set, because you really get to know people, right? And when you actually get to know people, you create friendships for life. And I think that through your art, I think what I'm getting from Gabi here, and we're going to see how they can get a hold of you. But the thing that I've kind of got from this conversation is that this has become your art. And so as this becomes your art, it also is the thing embodied. And it sounds like, most people can't say this, is you found the thing that you get to do for the rest of your life. And I think that that's a gift.
The gift of Gab. The gift, thank you. The gift is this. And then the gift is also like, walking away and telling my own story. Like, I love telling other people's stories. I will always advocate for other people's stories. I'll always find a way to teach people how to do what I've done. And I won't always be doing it for them.
Did you grow up in an environment like that?
Yeah. What do you mean? Like that I had to do other people's shit for them?
Yeah, it sounds like you were like the student in class, and I'm like, I'm probably gonna get kicked out, but can I get the notes?
I was worse. I was voted most likely never to get married in worst case senioritis.
No.
Yep.
Why do they tag people so early? You know, it's like they tell them
right?
so early in life, like, you're not going to do this. You're like, wait a minute, I haven't even made it out of 18.
Yeah, I mean, I will always have 2 feet, 2 hands, and my whole head in books. Just the way that I do it will differ as I go.
Well, Gabi, you are awesome. I get people on here. I meet some of the best people. I've genuinely blessed. Like, people come on, and so many times, like, things just come out and it like flows. So I've enjoyed having you as a guest, and I would tell you that you know, we've talked about doing a book here. We've discussed it. I don't think I can get rid of you, so I think I'm there. But ultimately, I think that what I'm sharing here is that I think it's your consistency, and I could tell that through now getting on podcast, and I think that's super important. So if anybody's at a place and you ever have openings, Gabi does cut off a certain amount a year, so that means that she can actually give you herself an experience. I think that's super awesome. So how would they find you, Gabi Garrete?
Go to GabrielleGarrette.com. So it's GabrielleGarrett.com. That's how you find me. There's a contact form. There's tons of my writing. There's the book club course. There's examples of books I've written. And then if you feel like you're ready to go on the author journey, like Jason said, then you can reach out to me and we'll see if I'm the right person to get you there.
Well, you're awesome, Gabi. Thank you so much for being on the Moved Entrepreneur Evolved podcast. It's been an amazing episode. I think we probably could have gone for another hour, but I respect the time and I appreciate it. So with that said, thank you so much. This is another episode of the Moved Entrepreneur Evolved podcast. And because I already talked about him and he brought me to you, go back and listen to Mikey Lucas's podcast as well. We got to loop the good people around. Thank you so much, Gabi.
You're welcome. And buy Mikey's book, Ghost Written by Me, created by him.
If you like this episode, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just like Nike is to athletes, Moved is to entrepreneurs.